Life is not a linear trajectory, and it matters regardless of who you are. At some point you will be tested. Some days will be difficult. Like unforeseen storms that shake your certainties and test your resilience, some remained silent. Loaded with uncertainty and fear, it is in these moments that many become disoriented, surrender to despair, and forget that life is made up of moments. Loaded with uncertainty and fear, it is in these moments that many become disoriented, surrender to despair, and forget that life is made up of moments. There is an invincible force within them, but you are not aware of it. There is an invincible force within them, but you are not aware of it. Do you happen to feel that there is a more effective way to deal with challenges, a more robust method? And H, who is wise, understands that challenges were not adversaries, but rather masters. Each barrier, each suffering, each loss hides a lesson that can change us. The problem is that most people don't realize this. Resists desires a simple life where everything goes according to plan, but reality doesn't follow our plans. Suffering arrives, and the only concrete decision we have is how we will deal with it. Those who rebel against pain feel it twice as much as those who face it with discernment. If today you feel overwhelmed and the adversities seem crushing, rest assured that you are not alone. Alone, many have already experienced what you are going through. Now many have already suffered falls, but many have also fallen. They got back up, and you too can learn to face challenges like a Stoic. There are new lessons to be learned that can transform the way you handle difficult moments. Lessons that do not come from meaningless words, but from centuries of experience. Before obligations, I would like you to do something. It is crucial that you give your like so that this message can reach more people who need to hear it. Subscribe to our channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates, and if possible, share this article on social media. Share the video with someone who is going through tough times in the comments. Affirm to yourself, I will overcome the difficult days. Write reaffirming this truth. Now take a deep breath. Prepare your statement. Listen carefully, for these new Stoic lessons will transform the way we think. How do you deal with your challenges? A pain is not the end, it is just the beginning. The first thing to understand about pain is that it is not your adversary. You can hate it, fear it, or wish to never feel it again, but none of that will change your relationship with it. Experiencing pain is part of life, just as night is part of day. Running away from it is escaping from your own existence, and the truth that few want to admit is that the more you try to avoid it, the more it presents itself. The more vulnerable you become. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest leaders in history. The Roman emperors and one of the most learned Stoics manifested the extradition to action. As action becomes the path, think about it. For a moment, what may seem like a challenge could be exactly what you needed to overcome the pain. It teaches what comfort could never convey when everything is fine, when life is simple. It did not come to destroy you, but to transform you. Pain is a strict but fair teacher. Pain is a strict but fair teacher. But when pain arises, when suffering manifests, neglect becomes complacent. But when pain arises, when suffering manifests, negligence becomes complacent. When we open the door, we are forced to look inside and analyze our strengths and weaknesses. To understand what truly has value, it is in the midst of adversity that true worth is revealed. When a warrior prepares for battle, their character is shaped. Each blow he receives is not a sign of defeat, but of victory. When he is resting, he strengthens himself. But when he is bleeding on the training field, when his muscles are burning, every blow he receives is not a sign of defeat, but of victory. When he is resting, he strengthens himself. But when he is bleeding on the training field, when his muscles are burning, if he abandoned learning at the first sign of pain, he would never be prepared for war. If he abandoned learning at the first sign of pain, he would never be prepared for war. Now ask yourself what your battle is, what pain you are going through, and more crucially, how you are dealing with it. If you see pain as a punishment, as something that was unjustly imposed on you, then you perceive it. Don't become a victim of it, but see it as a challenge and an opportunity. A person who uses this as motivation to strengthen themselves from the pain of betrayal can teach you to choose. Therefore, you strengthen yourself. There is a big difference between someone who laments what they are facing and someone who strengthens themselves. There is a big difference between someone who laments what they are facing and someone who strengthens themselves. The pain of a failure can teach you to be more strategic. The pain of a failure can teach you to be more strategic. Loneliness can teach you to be more strategic. The pain of a loss can teach you to value the present moment more. Each injury has a lesson to be learned. It is hidden, but only the wise find it. And here is something that few notice: the pain. It always opens two paths, one leading to ruin, despair, and resentment. One leads to wisdom, development, and inner strength. Which one do you choose? During the crossing, most people direct their energies to avoid any kind of pain, avoiding risks. He never developed an authentic eye to face it. Understand that each challenge has a purpose and don't question it. The fear of failure avoids feelings, just as the fear of being hurt avoids feelings. Changes are avoided out of fear of the unknown, but the consequence of this escape is that they become more frequent. Changes are avoided out of fear of the unknown, but the consequence of this avoidance is that they become more frequent. It happened to me, but how can I use this to improve myself? It happened to me, but rather how can I use this to improve myself? Now that you are going through difficult times, know that this is not the end of your journey, but rather the beginning of something new. A new version of yourself, more robust, wise, and ready for everything. Everything depends on how you behave. If you choose to see this pain, take a pause, breathe deeply, and reflect on what this pain represents. I am trying to guide you because, believe me, there is something there that is hindering your progress. The only question that remains is whether you will resist and lose yourself along the way. You can choose to suffer and become unshakable. The decision is yours, the control is in your hands. The rest is wind. Human pain has a deep origin, the desperate search for collapse. How many times have you felt disappointed because someone didn't behave as expected? How many sleepless nights have been caused by worries about the future regarding situations that have not yet materialized? It happens, and maybe it will never happen. This is the main mistake of most individuals. We waste energy fighting the uncontrollable, while neglecting what can truly transform reality. Throughout history, wisdoms have understood that there is a clear distinction between what is within our reach and what is beyond it. Epictetus is not a former slave who became one of the greatest exponents of Stoicism. Teaches that we should focus only on what we can control. The rest is like the wind, no matter how much you try to control it. Think of a sailor at sea who lets it slip through their fingers. He has no control over the waves, cannot alter the intensity of the winds, nor determine if there will be a storm or calm. However, he holds the helm and can adjust the sails, change direction, and prepare for the storm. It doesn't matter the final destination, but rather your ability to navigate. The issue is that many spend time cursing life. Instead of learning to navigate, relationships are an example of this. Of course, you can't force anyone to navigate. I want you to be loyal and like me, but can I choose? The way this person behaves can determine whether you will get attached to them, even if it causes you pain, or if you will distance yourself. As an obligation, you have the option to nurse grudges or learn from the experience. Your tranquility should not be tied to that of others, for others are like the wind. The fear of the future also haunts many people, avoiding any risk of failure. But the truth is that tomorrow never comes. When it is in our hands, we plan and prepare to act in the most effective way, in the best possible way, but we will never have total control over the outcomes. People interested in guarantees want to ensure that everything will go as planned, in the best possible way, but we will never have complete control over the outcomes. People interested in guarantees want to ensure that everything will go as planned. Please provide the text you would like me to translate. What really matters is that things won't happen as planned, but rather as they will happen. What really matters is that things won't happen as planned, but rather as they will happen. How we deal with what happens. Some people spend years of their lives ruminating on past mistakes. Sorry, but the past is as out of our control as the future that is yet to arrive. The mistake can be corrected, but the loss can be interpreted differently. The pain can turn into strength, but all of this can be transformed into a new beginning. It depends on where you focus, not on what you have already done or what you still have the potential to achieve. What happens around you is often random, uncertain, and unpredictable. You can be fired for being deceived by someone you trusted. There is a space between what happens and how you respond. This space is yours, and the way you use it determines what is to come. Next, lamenting over something beyond your control is wasted energy trying to make the world work. Wisdom begins when you accept this reality and start acting accordingly. Direct your energies to where you can truly make a difference. The rest is just the rest. So, reflect on where you have been investing your energy, maintaining what has never been under your control, or reinforcing what truly has the power to transform the decision. Always in your hands, suffering 3 times is your choice, the pain occurs. When something affects us, the suffering is often intense. Wow, there is a big difference between experiencing the pain of the moment and carrying it as a burden for days, months, and years. It can take months or even years for the initial impact to be processed, but everything that follows is a decision. It is not the events that determine us. It is not the offenses that destroy them, but rather the way we persist in reliving them. The passion for someone lasts seconds, but how many times does it repeat in your mind? It can happen in a single day, but how many nights have you spent thinking about it? The same happens with fear. A threat may not have materialized, but it suffocates you even before it comes to fruition. That is suffering twice. What hurts is what has already happened. What the victory is the fixation on that pain. The terrible habit of the human mind is to nourish wounds that should have already healed, instead of allowing them to heal. Although many people become hostages to these experiences, they repeat themselves. The same mental scenes provoke the same anguish and cause the same suffering. Although we have control over our reactions, we do not have control over external events, and each repetition is like an extra blow to a wound that could have healed. Stoicism teaches that reproduction is like an additional blow to a wound that could have healed. And Stoicism teaches that reproduction is like an additional blow to a wound that could have healed. It happened painfully. The initial impact may be irreversible, but what follows is in our hands. It happened painfully. The initial impact may be irreversible, but what follows is in our hands. You might think that revisiting the past is a way to seek justice. It's like holding a hot coal in the hope that someone else will get burned. The only one who suffers is yourself. The only one who suffers is himself. They themselves believe that by forgetting or overcoming something, they will allow that something to be forgotten or overcome. They themselves believe that by forgetting or overcoming something, they will allow that something to be forgotten or overcome. Although the mistake has been accepted, the reality is that the past does not change. Neither the future is built with accumulated pain, nor with accumulated anguish. Imagine that what happened does not correct the past. It only prevents you from moving forward. You carry a backpack with each pain you decide to revisit to discover a new weight. Over time, this backpack becomes so heavy that everything seems to float. It's harder to walk, breathe, and live. What many don't realize is that giving up this habit can be more difficult. Weight does not indicate weakness or disregard for what happened. It simply indicates that you made a choice. Freeing oneself from the caused suffering can be questioned. But how can I avoid suffering twice? If the answer is no, then there is no reason to act. Whenever a distressing thought arises, ask yourself, has this already passed? Staying stuck in it, life is already hard enough for you to become a self-murderer. Real suffering in itself is already a challenge. There is no need to increase it. Get rid of thoughts that only serve to reopen wounds. Choose to accept the pain when it appears, but do not invite it to stay. It moves like the wind. Notice, learn, and proceed. The past cannot be changed. Your present is still in your hands, and it is in it that your strength should reside before anything else. Just an important note if you want to change your life through Stoicism. My Beginner's Guide to Stoicism. A contemporary lifestyle can be your next big breakthrough, discovering strategic strategies to implement the principles. How to apply Stoic principles in everyday life and achieve balance, clarity, and inner peace. Don't put it off. Click immediately on the link in the description or in the already provided comment. Start your transformation immediately by going back to Lesson 4. Most people are shaped by what they support, not by what they avoid. They desire a life without problems, without suffering, without obstacles, but the challenge is what they seek. What they don't realize is that this desire is weak. Avoiding discomfort does not strengthen anyone. On the contrary, it only reinforces the vulnerability of those who have never resisted or felt the weight of adversity. Adversity breaks easily at the slightest sign of challenge. Nature teaches us this clearly. Observe a tree that develops protected from the wind. Its roots are superficial. Its branches are vulnerable. But what, even under intense winds, endures? Storms and learning to adapt without breaking, making their roots solid. They deepen and strengthen their structure. The same happens with you. Strength does not come from easy days, but from what you have done and endured. The great warriors of history were not forged by peace. They became invincible because they faced adversities, by challenges that would annihilate most of a soldier who has never been on the battlefield. A warrior who is not sure if he can trust his own bravery. Those who have suffered do not have the ability to advise those who are going through the concrete experience of wisdom. Sincerity and true strength arise only from confronting adversity. Difficulties are not indicative of difficulties. Signs that something is not right are accused of you being shaped by pain. With the prevailing mindset, many face suffering as a sadness, as a punishment. The Stoics, on the other hand, considered suffering as a punishment. What you feel today can be the foundation of your resilience in the future, but only if you choose it. The Stoics, on the other hand, considered suffering as a punishment. What you feel today can be the foundation of your resilience in the future, but only if you choose to. Professor, each challenge that presents itself to you brings with it an opportunity. Professor, every challenge that comes your way brings with it an opportunity. No matter the difficulty, whether it is a loss, a failure, a fear, or a betrayal, all of these have a hidden root, capable of strengthening you, but only if you confront it instead of hiding. It's that many people seek gratification without work, strength without resistance, victory without battle. This is not possible if you long for an unshakable mind that can withstand pressure. To become an unshakable person, it is necessary to expose what you fear, as the Stoic philosopher Seneca asserted. The fire tested the gold, adversity tested the brave, and he was right about what you were thinking. Today's challenge may be to shape a robust version of yourself, but only if you don't strive to escape it. Frequently, the initial resistance to pain is instinctive. No one appreciates pain. In this way, you can live avoiding challenges in search of the simplest solution. The point is not whether you like it or not, but rather understanding the purpose of it for those who see suffering as a learning experience, rather than a punishment. When a punishment becomes stronger than those who dedicate their lives to trying to avoid it, a decision must be made. When a punishment becomes stronger than those who dedicate their lives to trying to avoid it, there is a decision to be made. By avoiding any situation that requires effort, you will be protected. By avoiding any situation that requires effort, you will be protected. Becoming vulnerable, someone who collapses at the first concrete challenge, or you can choose to face the challenges. Like tests that propel you to a higher level of strength. Understanding, in the end, you will be remembered for what you did, not for what you failed to confront. When you look back, you will realize what you suffered. The moments that taught you the most were those that, at first glance, seemed insurmountable. It is in those moments that you learn. Develop your resilience, discipline, and wisdom. Stop aspiring to a perfect life. Instead, wish to have the strength necessary to overcome them. The true value does not lie in avoiding pain, but in becoming someone capable of supporting it and emerging even stronger. No one goes through suffering to define their actions. There is no life without pain. But there is a fundamental distinction between those who rise and move forward and those who settle. The difference lies in your attitude. What happens to you does not define you. Who you are and what you do. Yes, there are those who carry the scars of adversity as an invaluable burden. A label that can never be removed, these individuals identify deeply with it. They become so dependent on it that they end up being sold only as victims. They face failures or injustices, and by acting this way, they fail to see any other side. Some, however, look at their pains and transform them into a point of reference. They did not deny what they went through, nor did they pretend what they did not survive. They refuse to allow that to become the focus of their lives, understanding that the past is part of the journey, but not letting it become the center of their lives. Needs to define the destination. The human mind has the dangerous habit of reliving stories of pain. With each replay, we relive the feelings as if we were experiencing everything all over again. Does mentally reliving the pains help you? Although the past may improve, the present often finds us even more. Stoics argue that our identity should not be determined by external events, but rather by how we react to them. Epictetus argues that it is not what happens to us, but the way we react to it. Difficulty in your life and yet emerge stronger, but this requires a specific effort. If you allow pain or definition, you will always be someone carrying a heavy burden. If you decide that the burden is greater than the suffering, you will start to see opportunities where you once only saw difficulties. That is what distinguishes the resilient from those who get lost in lamentations. Often, the issue is not the issue itself, but rather the problem itself. Not what happened to us, but a narrative we create for ourselves about it. If you believe you were defeated, your mind will try to confirm that idea. But if you decide that each challenge was a test that strengthens your stance, then each challenge will be a test for you. When life transforms completely, the issue is not to ignore the pain or pretend it doesn't exist. Can you remember that it never existed? The question is deciding not to grant her more authority than necessary. It happened without allowing it to have control over your choices. From a challenging period without allowing it to determine your entire journey. What happened cannot be changed, but what you are doing now is still in your hands. Each new day represents a chance to reinterpret your own trajectory. The damages suffered or the strength you found to endure are, in the end, your actions. That will determine who you really are, not by the adversities that happened. But your decision regarding all of this is simple: to remain stuck in the past. If you choose to rebuild the past or create something new from it, the choice will always be yours. It doesn't matter if you are important or not, the hands of the clock keep moving forward. Regardless of what happens, time does not adjust to your whims. Don't rush to recover, nor rush to satisfy your desires. He quickly follows his own path, beyond human concerns. Although this may seem cruel, there is a powerful lesson here if time does not run out. It doesn't matter because you shouldn't spend so much time on things that cannot be changed. Many live as if nothing could be changed. I need the ability to negotiate with the passing days. We nurture resentments, we hold on to grudges. They relive disappointments as if, by doing so, they could change the past. The future brings new challenges, but time does not heed requests. It simply moves forward, and those who do not move forward are left behind. By learning to follow it, they end up becoming slaves to what no longer exists. Is to understand that not everything requires an immediate solution. There are pains that only time can heal. Time heals some doubts that only it can clarify. Resisting this is fighting against time. He didn't waste energy trying to alter the course of time, he just adjusts to it. His mind to move with it, the seasons change without his consent. Yesterday can no longer be changed and tomorrow is still far away. So, what is your prediction? The goal is to cling to things that are beyond your control. You can spend years lamenting a mistake, but that is not something you can control. If you don't rewrite your story, you may feel pain for what you lost, but that doesn't reward you with what you lost. You can simply accept that life goes on and that nothing can be done to go back. Watching time pass can be intimidating for some. There are those who see the passage of years as a threat, a reminder of what they haven't accomplished or what they fear losing. And if instead of fearing time, you learn to use it to your advantage? If instead of clinging to the past or yearning for the future, you chose to live in the present? Anxiety arises from the attempt to control what has not yet happened. Sadness often arises from the attempt to control what has not yet happened. The attempt to relive what has already passed arises, but the present is what remains, the only place where it is truly possible to act. The past has already been experienced. The future is just a possibility, but it is here and it is in it that we must live. Your decisions have the power to hasten certain things to happen quickly. It is also a way to waste. There is a right time for everything. Some battles can only be overcome when you are prepared to understand them. Mind to deal with them. Impatience only contributes to food-related frustrations. Regardless of the moment you are going through now, what seems unbearable today will also pass. It can transform into a distant memory what today seems to be a present memory. An insurmountable obstacle can over time become just a small hurdle in your path. The secret lies in persistence. Understanding that everything transforms, and resisting it only prolongs the suffering. Question yourself how much time you have already spent on worries that cannot be changed, and how much of your energy has been wasted. Although we try to control the uncontrollable, time continues its course, and the only option is to accept. What you need to do is decide how you will use it. You can waste it by diving into debt. In the end, time can be used to regret or to build a more robust version of yourself. It simply moves forward, indifferent to your afflictions or yearnings. The freedom you can achieve is learning to progress with it. You have the ability to rewrite any story. Reality is reality, but fiction is fiction. The way you interpret this reality is a decision. Two people can go through the same situation and emerge with different perspectives. Completely separate, for one it was a tragedy, while for the other it was a lesson. The way you choose to narrate your own story determines whether you will be a victim of one of the events or someone who has overcome them. Strengthen yourself with each experience. Not all situations are under your control, but the meaning you attribute to them is. Each experience is yours. Someone can hurt you, but only you have the ability to decide. If this injury will turn into a failure or a motivation to evolve, it may seem like the end for some, but for others it is just the beginning of a new journey. Understand that events can be just the beginning of a new journey. The external elements are neutral. It is the mind that paints them with pain or pleasure. The human mind naturally tends to develop negative narratives when something negative occurs. We mentally repeat the same problem. We nurture grievances, but we claim to forgive ourselves. We question, what if I saw this from a different perspective, the power to rewrite this story? A narrative is in our hands, but few of us use it. People spend years clinging to the past, believing they were defined by a specific moment, holding on to that specific moment. I feel the pain as an identity, but that is just one version of my story. Nothing prevents you from creating a new story. What happened can be a final chapter or just a beginning. Chapter that you discovered in something deeper, evolving the way you perceive your experiences. It means disregarding reality. It does not mean pretending that something negative does not exist. It simply means choosing a perspective that strengthens you, instead of weakening you. Think of a warrior who lost a battle. Can he self-determine as a failure, or can see himself as someone who learned to fight more effectively? Both versions are correct, but only one of the instructions will be presented in the reinterpretation. The story itself is an exercise in power, as life already presents challenges. There is no need to carry an additional burden just to persist in seeing everything from the negative side. When you decide to change the meaning of something, you not only transform the original meaning, but also the perspective. Not only your past, but also your future, if a proven mistake and a failure. Guilt. But if it was a learning experience, one can feel growth. Although injustice can cause outrage, it is a cycle that has closed. Often, it is history itself that prevents a transformation. Realizes that it has always been this way, always suffered, always had bad luck. You will continue to act as if this were the only possible truth. But what if you chose to tell a different version of the story? If instead of someone who lost, you were someone who survived. If you were preferable to a defeated individual, you would be a survivor. Those who have rebuilt themselves have the ability to give new meaning to things. What happened cannot be erased, but the way you perceive yourself can be changed at any moment. Adverse experiences are inevitable, but the way you face them is what transforms them. You decide whether they will be an anchor that keeps you stuck or a leap that propels you forward. In the end, your narrative is still in progress. You can keep rewriting the previous chapters, or you can choose to skip those chapters, choosing to start a new chapter. The past is already gone, but the future is yet to come. What do you wish to tell from now on? Letting go is not easy. Losing is freeing yourself. Clinging to what should have already gone away is like holding on to an anchor. While it tears your skin, you hurt yourself even more. Why, paradoxically, does letting go of this rope seem scary? Because despair is a process. Frequently associated with loss, people think that letting something go is like losing. It means renouncing, it means failing, it means losing. But in reality, it means letting go. Letting go does not mean losing, but rather gaining freedom, for life is a constant flow of transformations. Nothing remains unchanged, friends drift apart. Opportunity for friendship drifts apart, friends drift apart. Moments come and go. Resisting this flow only causes pain. How many times has resisting this flow only caused suffering? How many times have you held on to something just because of what might happen later? It only made sense because you feared the emptiness that could arise from letting it go. This is the paradox of the peak. He promises. The Stoics preached that true peace is not secure, but rather imprisoning, comes from the acceptance of what is beyond our control. Epictetus asserts that we should not worry about what is beyond our control. Do not cling to what is transient, for everything life provides us can be taken away. This should not be a reason for despair, but rather for understanding. This does not imply that you should despair. We should not live devoid of emotions or appreciation for people and experiences, but rather learn to accept. When something has already played its role in our history, letting go does not imply abandonment or forgetting. It simply means understanding that there are moments when persisting is a waste of energy. There are bonds that, even though they are strong, need to be broken so that you can start new paths. There are pains that only heal when we stop constantly touching them. Excessive attachment arises from fear. Fear of being alone and not finding something better. Fear that the past was your peak and that the future holds nothing good. But is it worth living looking back, clinging to what has already passed? As life progresses, what is lost by discarding something that no longer holds value? People who cannot free themselves may be insignificant compared to what they gain by freeing themselves. They live trapped in cycles of pain, reliving relationships that no longer exist. Those who have already left cling to past resentments and sustain expectations that no longer make sense. It's like carrying a burden. You can carry too much weight on your back and still wonder why the walk is so challenging. But what would happen if you were run over? When you decide to release that burden, nothing is eternal. This is an undeniable truth that many fear, but that can also bring freedom if everything transforms. If everything transforms, then today's suffering will also pass. New opportunities will arise. Don't let them pass. In the face of what is to come, many think it comes from something or someone. To be happy, but when we understand that tranquility is not likely to come from outside, if we observe from within, we realize that there is nothing that from then on can annihilate us. You will always live in fear, but if happiness comes from something external, you will always be afraid. You possess your own strength, and nothing can take it away from you. Accepting the course of life does not mean not feeling pain. Just understand that holding on to what should no longer remain only prolongs the suffering. Despair is not insensitivity, nor the absence of feelings. Feelings are maturity, the understanding that certain extraordinary situations will be resolved, that others may arise. What burden are you setting aside that you should have already released? Are you still carrying what could have happened if you had made a decision now? Moving forward without receiving, perhaps you'll realize that you didn't lose, but rather gained. Freedom is what truly matters at every passing moment. Each decision you make, even if small, determines the path you will take. What really matters is not what you choose, but what you do. Not the uncertainties of tomorrow, but what you do now. What you do next is what defines your life, and that decision is in your hands. Individuals paralyze themselves by the weight of the past, trapped in mistakes and hurts. They look to the past and ask themselves, what if I had acted differently? It's as if this question torments them. Could change something, but the past cannot be rewritten as it has already happened. What remains open is how you will use the time that is still left. Others live, worried about a future that has not yet materialized. They fear what might go wrong, what might not work, and the way things might happen. Things may not happen as planned, and by worrying about non-existent scenarios, they fail to act in the only moment that exists. Stoicism teaches that the present moment is a unique reality. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest emperors in the world, the author of the story said, "Do not live as if you had 1,000 years ahead of you, so do what needs to be done now, because tomorrow may not exist. It is assured and the past is already gone. What remains is this moment, this choice." Significant changes do not happen immediately. They are built daily. Day in the constant choice to act, even when everything seems complicated. Waiting for the ideal moment to start is a mistake because that moment never comes. The time to improve never comes. The moment to advance is always, regardless of the current situation. A next step that can take you forward, regardless of its size. If life knocks you down, get back up. If you are confused, keep going. Select a path and proceed, even if you feel afraid. Take a step, even if the progress is slow. Does not come from perfection, but from continuous action. The mind often tries to convince you that perfection doesn't exist, but continuous action does. That it's not worth it, that nothing will change, and that all the effort will be in vain. But that voice is just a manifestation of fear. The only way to determine what is real is to move forward. Moving forward one step at a time does not require all the answers. You need to see the entire journey. All you need to do is determine what your next step will be and act on it. The rest depends on time. Many wait for inspiration to act, but the key is motivation. Instead, action precedes motivation. By taking the first step, you break the cycle. Cycle of inertia or simple movement creates an impulse that simplifies the next step. The difference is that time will pass regardless of whether you are stationary or in motion. Those who choose to act determine their own destiny, while those who evade become slaves to circumstances. Therefore, question yourself about your next step, what you can accomplish today. It will bring you closer to where you want to be. Avoid thinking about what has already happened. Don't get lost in the past. Anxiety about the future, the only real moment is this one, and your life will not be shaped by the future. Not by what is past, but by what you choose to accomplish from now on. Remember, the obstacles are not yours. Your instructors are your enemies, and each one can make you wiser. Strong and unyielding, each challenge you overcome shapes each suffering you experience. You don't need to fear adversity to grow stronger. Just learn to deal with them. Now go and show the world that nothing can shake someone who has control over themselves. However, if this message made sense to you, leave a like, so that more individuals can listen and strengthen themselves. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't activated notifications yet, keep receiving reflections that will help you evolve even further. If you made it this far, I want to know your opinion. Comment until the end in the comments so I will know. You are a person dedicated to your own development, who not only listens but also applies the acquired wisdom. Now keep moving forward. Your next step is what truly matters. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.